My truck tires crunched over the gravel as I followed the winding road deeper into the coastal forest. My GPS had cut out miles back, leaving only Mr. Abernathy's handwritten directions. "Continue until the road ends," the last note said. The further I drove, the closer the towering pine trees grew together, closing in until their branches scraped the truck's roof like fingernails on stone, forming a tunnel that swallowed me. I needed this job bad. Losing the big Westridge contract last month had my landscaping business dangling by a thread. 3 years pouring sweat, blood, and every dime I had into Jacobs Grounds management. And now one more bad month could sink it. When I got that email offering a long-term maintenance job for the Blackwood estate, paying nearly double my usual rate, it felt like a lifesaver thrown from heaven. Suddenly, the dense forest opened into a huge clearing. There it was, the Blackwood estate. A dark Victorian mansion stood stark against the gray Oregon sky. It loomed over what must have been 10 acres of perfectly groomed gardens. The sudden shift from the wild woods to this unnaturally controlled space was jarring. I parked near a small shed and got out. The air was cool and damp. The silence hit me instantly. No birds singing, no far-off traffic hum, not even wind sighing through the big trees. Just thick, heavy silence. "Mr. Jacobs?" I jumped. A tall, thin man in a dark gray suit stood at the edge of the path. His posture was stiff as a board, his face blank under a head of silver hair. "Mr. Abernathy?" I said. "I'm Cason Jacobs." "Yes." He didn't offer to shake hands. "This way. I'll show you the grounds." This place was unlike any garden I'd ever worked on. Old-fashioned style, perfect hedges, crushed gravel paths, precise flower beds laid out in strict patterns around a big fountain at the center. But the statues stole the show. Dozens of them. White marble figures crafted so skillfully they looked alive. They showed nymphs right out of Greek stories and modern people, frozen in white stone. "These are amazing," I said, stepping closer to a statue of a young woman holding a water jug. The detail was unreal. The tight muscles in her arms, the thin strands of her hair, the fine wrinkles near her eyes. Must be worth a fortune. "They have no price," Abernathy snapped. "You do not touch them. Work around them. Keep the ground clean. The statues are off limits." As we walked, a strange feeling crept over me. It felt like the cold marble eyes tracked my every step. I've worked lots of places with statues before, but these were different. Too real, caught in that creepy gap between something crafted and something alive. Abernathy ran through my duties: trim the hedges, pull weeds, clean the fountain, clear the gravel paths of debris. Simple tasks, great pay. "One rule you must never break," Abernathy said gravely as we finished the tour. His voice grew low and heavy, demanding attention. "Be off this property before sunset. Every day, without fail." "Is there a security system or something that kicks in?" I asked. "Or something," he replied, face like stone. "Non-negotiable, Mr. Jacobs. Gone by sunset or you're fired." Or I nodded, though the weirdly vague warning felt like ice down my spine. Still, for the money, I could live with a crazy schedule. Abernathy handed me keys for the gate and shed, then vanished towards the big house without another word. Alone now, I started checking over the gardens. The last groundskeeper had kept things tight, but signs of neglect showed. Ragged edges to the grass, weeds poking through the path stones, the fountain water thick and green with algae. All easy fixes. I spent the afternoon taking notes and measurements. The silence began to claw at me. No matter where I went, I felt watched. I kept spinning around, almost expecting someone to be right behind me, but only the marble figures stood there. As late afternoon settled in, the gloomy day got darker fast. Fog rolled thick off the coast. Remembering Abernathy's warning, I packed my tools. Closing the shed door sent a chill racing down my back. Something felt off. Slowly, I turned towards the garden. The statue closest to where I'd been working all day, a weeping nymph with her face buried in her hands, seemed different. I swore when I started. Her fingers completely covered her face. But now there was a small gap between them, like she had shifted her hands just a fraction, peeking out at me. I rubbed my eyes hard and looked again. Must be a trick of the failing light, my imagination or the swirling fog playing tricks on my eyes. Driving away, the gardens vanished into the mist behind me. But the feeling of those cold, stone eyes watching me go stuck with me long after the Blackwood estate disappeared. The memory of those stone eyes followed me home like an unwelcome shadow. Sleep came in short, terrible bursts. I kept dreaming about pale figures frozen in the middle of movement. Every time I jerked awake, that cold, heavy look felt like it was burning into the back of my head. By morning, I almost sold myself the idea it was nothing, just the fog and dim light playing tricks. The thinking part of my brain shouted that statues don't move, don't watch, don't turn their heads. I chanted this like a prayer as I drove back to Blackwood. The morning sun did little to warm the chill inside me. The iron gates groaned open right at 7:30 in the morning, like Abernathy was glued to the window. I parked in yesterday's spot and grabbed my tools, trying to feel like my usual professional self. Bathed in daylight, the gardens lost some of their menace. Just plants, stone, gravel paths, perfectly normal stuff. Focus on the job, I muttered, tightening my grip on the shears. Just focus on the damn job. I picked up where I'd stopped near the fountain. The hard work, yanking weeds, trimming back thickets, distracted me for a while. But as the morning crawled on, that tingle between my shoulders came back, stronger. Impossible to pretend it wasn't there. I kept looking up, scanning the garden for what? A flicker of motion? A caught statue? Each time the figures stood just like before, perfectly frozen. Around noon, I moved to the base of a statue showing a discus thrower. He was captured mid-throw, muscles bunched under fake marble like he might explode into motion. The detail was insane, every tiny line too real. I knelt to clear weeds sprouting by the base. That's when I saw the bird, a tiny sparrow, flattened at the statue's stone feet, smashed almost paper-thin, like something heavy pressed straight down on it, not torn up by an animal or damaged by weather. Deliberate, like something crushed it on purpose. I jerked back, nearly stumbling. Birds die, they hit windows, get caught by cats, but this? It looked crushed. Just bad luck, I said out loud, my voice thin in the quiet. I scooped the crumpled thing into a trash bag, shuddering at the way its eyes had burst. 2 hours later, I found another dead bird, near a statue of a nymph reaching out, squashed flat exactly like the first one. Fragile bones turned to dust under thin feathers. One bird? Maybe bad luck. But two, exactly the same, under different statues. That was harder to laugh off. I stared up at the nymph's smooth face. Her blank eyes showed nothing. Had her arms been lowered yesterday? I could swear they pointed down, not out. And the discus thrower, hadn't he faced more sideways? "You're losing it, Kaysen," I whispered. My voice shook, betraying the crumbling confidence behind the words. The rest of the afternoon crawled. I couldn't escape the feeling things were shifting. Tiny changes just at the corner of my eye. A head that had shown its profile before seemed subtly turned toward me. A closed hand now held its fingers slightly apart. Little differences that crawled under my skin. I tried to concentrate on trimming a hedge, but my eyes kept cutting back to the statues. Their frozen poses weren't about stillness anymore. They looked like interrupted movement. Someone paused mid-reach, mid-step, mid-turn, just paused. By 4 o'clock, my nerves were screaming. I needed proof, actual proof, something solid to show I wasn't crazy. Pretending I was taking photos of my work progress, I pulled out my phone. I took a careful shot of 3 statues grouped together near the garden's edge. A woman draped in stone robes, a man dressed Greek style, and a small child between them. I studied the picture, memorized the exact pose of each one, the tilt of the heads, the line of the arms. Then I looked at the real statues, flipping my gaze between the screen and the stone. The shapes matched. Good. Nothing changed. Not yet. Proof, I murmured, shoving the phone back into my pocket. One way or another. I packed up early, hours before sunset. Walking to my truck felt like marching under heavy fire. I felt unseen eyes digging into my back with every step. The silence pressed in, thick enough to feel it squeezing my ears. At the gate, I stopped, looked back. The gardens looked picture perfect in the late afternoon, still, orderly, except the discus thrower? From here, I couldn't be sure, but maybe his pose was different. Taut. His empty eyes were fixed on me, that fake body coiled, ready to hurl things that shouldn't move. I hit the gas too fast, gravel crunching under my speeding tires. Blackwood shrank in the rearview mirror, but in my head those statues stayed bright and clear, patient, watching, waiting for something. Tomorrow the pictures would prove it. I'd know for sure if I was cracking or if the impossible was happening. Deep down, though, I already knew, and that scared me most of all. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, those stone faces watched me. The shadows in my bedroom seemed to shift, forming shapes that vanished when I turned on the light. By morning, I was running on coffee and a heavy sense of dread. My phone clutched tight in my hand for some kind of comfort. The drive to Blackwood felt longer. Each mile pushed me closer to a truth I didn't want to face. Fog clung to the coastal road, turning trees and rocks into ghostly shadows. The garden's iron gate stood wide open, waiting for me like the open mouth of something big and patient. I didn't unload my tools. First, I went back to the spot where I'd taken yesterday's photo. My hands shook a little as I pulled up the image on my phone and held it towards the group of statues. At first, everything looked the same. Then I saw it. A small change, but impossible to ignore. On the end, a statue of a guy had shifted its weight. Its foot was a whole inch forward compared to the picture. I checked the photo time. 4:16 p.m. yesterday. Nobody could have moved that heavy figure overnight, and honestly, who could move it at all? It was solid stone. I shoved my phone back in my pocket, a cold knot of fear settling in my gut. This wasn't just in my head, not mist or tricks of the light. The statues were moving when no one was looking. The smart move was obvious. Walk away, call Abernathy, make up some excuse, cancel the job. But then what? My small business would fold in weeks. The bank would take my truck, my gear, 3 years of hard work, gone forever. The idea of crawling back to the half-dead landscaping company that fired me made me sick. I looked around the garden at the dozens of pale figures frozen in place. In the sunlight, they looked almost peaceful. And if they only moved when unseen. "I'll just leave early," I muttered. My voice sounded too loud in the quiet garden. "Work fast, be gone by 4, long before sunset." I threw myself into the work. Today's job was clearing out overgrown brush near the garden's eastern edge, where neat lawns gave way to wild forest. I moved quickly, methodically, constantly glancing at the nearest statues. Physical work helped push some of the fear away. Around noon, I slammed my shovel into a thick knot of weeds and hit something solid. Not stone-heavy, but different, softer. I knelt and brushed dirt aside. A boot. A single mud-covered work boot. The leather was cracked and worn from years outside. It was a sturdy brand Landscaper's Trust. I picked it up. Finding it here, half buried at the wild edge of this garden, sent a fresh wave of cold fear through me. Was it from the guy before me? I remembered the gardener's shed, the old employee files, that faded name tag. James Wheeler. I dropped the boot like it was hot. Why leave just one boot? Where was James Wheeler now? The questions stuck in my mind, making me work even faster as the day wore on. I kept checking my watch, determined to be gone well before sunset, but the job kept pulling me back, staring at statues, taking more pictures. My stupid professional pride wouldn't let me leave it half finished. Just this last bit, I told myself at 3:30, then I'm done. The sun hung lower now, making long shadows crawl across the lawn. The orange late afternoon light changed the statues. It made the white marble glow golden. They looked different in this light, more alive. Their expressions seemed sharper. I worked frantically, checking my watch every few minutes. 4 o'clock came, then 4:30. The light was fading fast. How did I let it get so late? At 5:15, I finally tossed my tools into the bed of my truck, cursing myself. The sunset rule. Abernathy had been dead serious about it. The sun was a blood-red disk touching the horizon when I slammed the tailgate shut. Maybe 10 minutes of daylight left. I had to get out. Now. That's when I heard it. A deep, grinding scrape from behind me. Stone dragging slowly across gravel. The sound shot ice through my body. I whipped around, my heart pounding against my ribs. The garden looked unchanged, perfectly still, silent, except for one thing. The discus thrower. The statue I'd been near all day. It wasn't by the fountain anymore. It stood just 10 feet away, its body twisted back in that moment before it let the disc fly. Its blank stone eyes weren't blank. Somehow they were fixed right on me. I froze. My breath stalled in my throat. It hadn't been here moments ago. I'd seen the empty spot just now while loading the truck, 30 yards away. But here it was, close enough to see every perfect muscle carved in the marble. The expression on its face wasn't serene, it was fierce concentration. And the eyes, those stone eyes, seemed aware. They didn't see a gardener, they saw prey. The sun dipped lower, darkness pooled quickly. Another gritty scrape broke the stillness, this time from my left. I didn't dare look away from the discus thrower to see what caused it. "Don't move," I breathed at the statue. "Please don't move." But we both knew the rules now. And as the last band of sunlight vanished beneath the horizon, plunging the garden into deep twilight, I understood with perfect, terrifying clarity. I had broken the one rule, the only rule that mattered. The world froze. Only the statue and me locked in a terrible, silent standoff as the last sliver of sun vanished behind the trees. Cold sweat trickled down my spine. My chest was tight, aching from trying not to breathe. The discus thrower stood way too close. Its marble eyes were fixed on me with a focus no statue should have. Another gritty, scraping noise came from my left, then another behind me. The shock broke, and I ran. My boots slammed against the gravel path. Each breath was a desperate gasp, burning my lungs. I ditched my wheelbarrow, my rake, my expensive pruning shears, all of it. The money didn't mean a thing. Survival screamed louder. I didn't look back. Some deep-down animal sense told me turning around would kill me. The crunching, scraping sounds followed, getting faster as I fled, but I forced my eyes forward. On the gate, on freedom. The moon was up now, washing the garden in cold, ghostly light. Shadows stretched out from the hedges and shaped bushes, turning the place into a dark maze. In my panic, I made 2 wrong turns. Both times, tall hedges blocked my way. Each time I whipped around, I saw flickers of white marble slipping behind corners or freezing dead still. They were playing with me. Finally, I burst through the main gates and scrambled into my truck. My hands shook so badly I dropped the keys twice before I shoved them into the ignition. The engine roared. I peeled out, racing down the winding driveway, headlights slicing the dark. In the rearview mirror, only blackness swallowed the Blackwood estate. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I shut my eyes, I saw the discus thrower's face, felt its empty stare drilling into me. By dawn, I was convinced. I wouldn't go back. Couldn't go back. I'd find another job, beg for a loan, do anything to save my business. But as morning light seeped into my bedroom, cold, hard facts crashed into my fear. I'd left nearly $3,000 worth of gear behind, tools I couldn't afford to buy again, gear that was years of work and saving. And then there was that nagging sense of duty. What if Abernathy hired someone else? Some other broke landscaper who needed the cash too bad to ask questions or listen to warnings. These thoughts circled my brain like vultures until I decided, one quick trip. Just grab my tools, maybe leave a warning note. In and out, 10 minutes tops, and this time in the full light of day. I rolled up to Blackwood Estate just after 9 in the morning. The sun was high, burning off the coastal mist, lighting up the grounds too clearly. I parked by the gate, my hands still a little shaky on the steering wheel. As I got out, I spotted something new near the entrance path. It hadn't been there yesterday. A statue, maybe 15 feet from the gate, half hidden by a fancy bush. Did Abernathy put in a new piece overnight? It seemed weird. Unlike the classy figures around the garden, this was modern. A man in work pants and a plain t-shirt, frozen in the middle of... My gut twisted as I crept closer. This figure wasn't posed gracefully or thoughtfully. This man was caught trying to run, his body twisted, one arm flung up like he was shielding himself. His face was stretched in a silent scream, mouth wide, eyes bulging with pure terror. And then I knew him. My first day, I'd found an old employee ID card in the groundskeeper's shed. James Wheeler, it said, the last gardener who Abernathy said had just moved on. My stomach dropped. This was him. The same square jaw, the same slightly bent nose, but carved in horrifying detail into white marble. This wasn't a memorial. It was a trophy. My knees almost gave out as the truth hit me. I understood what happened if you broke the rules. What happened after dark at Blackwood Estate. This was Wheeler's punishment. I stumbled backward, bile stinging my throat. My tools weren't worth this. Nothing was worth this. But as I turned to bolt, a sound froze me solid. That awful, dreaded scrape of stone on gravel. Not from one place, from several, surrounding me. It was impossible. The sun was blazing overhead, not sunset. This couldn't be happening. I spun around, my eyes flashing over the garden. Every statue I could see was still standing exactly where I remembered, but the scraping noises kept coming, deeper in the garden where I couldn't see. Another scrape closer now, from behind a tall hedge on my right, and another from near the fountain. They were closing in, using the garden's layout to sneak closer, hidden. The rules had changed, or maybe I never really understood them in the first place. I made a blind dash for my truck but stopped dead. Standing between me and the gate was the discus thrower. I hadn't seen it move. I'd looked away for just a second, but there it was, blocking my way out. Its pose was different now. The arm that held the disc was lowered, those stone fingers stretched out, reaching. Here in the brutal daylight with nowhere to run, the final terrible truth hit me. The sunset rule hadn't been about when they could move. It had been their only kindness, a head start before the real hunt began. I backed away from the discus thrower, eyes locked onto its frozen, reaching hand. My breath hitched, frantic little gasps as my lungs burned and my chest tightened. I couldn't look away, didn't dare. We held our standoff, me trembling it perfectly still. The garden had gone dead silent. No birdsong, no insects, not even a whisper of wind. Just the pounding of my heart and my ragged breathing. Another step back, then another. The statue stayed frozen, but only while I watched it. The terrible truth hit me hard. These things only moved when unseen. It was a nightmare game of red light, green light, and losing meant more than just starting over. Snap, a branch broke somewhere to my left. I flinched, almost turning my head. Fool. That's exactly what they wanted. Look away, and the discus thrower would lunge. But how could I escape if I couldn't take my eyes off the thing? Sweat trickled down my spine despite the cold air. I kept backing up, helplessly retreating deeper into the garden's twisting paths, away from the exit blocked by the discus thrower. I needed another way out. Any path through this sprawling nightmare leading to freedom. My heel snagged on a root. I stumbled. My eyes dropped just for an instant to catch myself. When I jerked my gaze back up, the discus thrower had halved the distance between us. Its pose was completely different now. No disc. Both arms clawed towards me, its supposedly serene face twisted into a mask of pure, vicious hunger. I ran, bolting blindly between tall hedges, panic driving me deeper into the labyrinth. Scraping sounds followed. That awful stone-on-stone grating, not just one source now, many, closing in from all sides. I risked a look back. 3 statues were visible on the path behind me, the discus thrower and 2 others I recognized from the fountain grove. They froze mid-charge the instant I saw them, caught in horrifying positions. Limbs bent at impossible angles. Faces warped from classical beauty to expressions of rage and ravenous hunger. I sprinted forward, lungs screaming, eyes stinging. Every few terrified moments I'd snap my head back. Each time the pursuers were closer, frozen in increasingly grotesque poses of attack. Rounding a corner onto what looked like an open path, I slammed hard into something cold and unyielding. The impact threw me backward onto the damp ground. Craning my head up, I saw the stone legs of the weeping nymph, the very statue I first suspected. It hadn't been here seconds ago. They were working together, hunting together, herding me. Scrambling to my feet, I spun around. They'd closed in. 6, no, 7 white figures formed a tightening circle around me. Each statue froze the moment my gaze swept over it, caught in some disturbing stance, lunging, clawing, reaching. I was trapped. Cornered prey caught in a ring of patient stone predators. Movement flickered beyond the statues. Not marble. From the mansion. In a second-story window stood Mr. Abernathy. His expression held zero surprise, zero concern, utterly blank. He watched like this was just another Tuesday. I opened my mouth to scream, to plead, but no sound came. A strange numbness was spreading through my feet, cold and heavy. Glancing down, I saw it. My boots were turning a dull, featureless gray. The color crawled upward like slow frost climbing glass. It wasn't exactly painful, but a terrible weight anchored me. I couldn't move. The cold grayness washed over my knees. It flowed higher up my thighs. My limbs felt sluggish, dead. I tried to lift my arm. It was too heavy, immobile stone. The chill reached my chest, squeezing it tight. My last choked sob escaped as my lungs locked beneath unyielding stone. My neck stiffened. My vision narrowed to a pinhole. Through the fading haze, I saw the statues shifting. They slowly relaxed their threatening poses, returning to poised, graceful stillness. The hunt was over. They had their prize. My last conscious thought was pure frozen horror. I would stay aware, petrified, watching helplessly as the garden kept its silent watch. Future gardeners would work around me, oblivious, until the day they too joined the estate's dark collection.